moment, they have not identified an actual location, like a home for him. So unless they've done something different, I don't think they've found his actual house. One thing that I can tell you that's been really interesting to us in learning about this individual is that we've been getting phone calls. I've been getting, even messages, text messages from individuals. This van that he was driving with all of these markings all over it about Donald Trump. There's a picture of Hillary Clinton in crosshairs. There's dishonest media, CNN sucks. There's pictures of Michael Moore with crosshairs. There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of imagery, very positive towards Donald Trump. Things on the van talk about chain migration. This van became very popular in South Florida. It was memorable to people in South Florida. So that now that they're seeing it on TV, we're getting reports of it, people regularly seeing it at a shopping mall in the Aventura area. Somebody else sending me pictures of the van that when it was at a VFW in Fort Lauderdale, because people just thought it was a remarkable sort of thing and wanted to have their pictures taken with it. So I think that more people are identifying the van and recognizing him through that than they are actually through his picture being released right now.
Yeah, and Jim, we did have a little clip of a video that we can probably throw up on the screen there for our viewers that showed allegedly Mr. Sayak at a rally, an undated rally with President Trump. There you can see him in the foreground of your screen there. Oh, there we go. We got the
2016 Cincinnati.
There we go. We've great reporter in there. 2016 in Cincinnati, Ohio. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting to us, Jim. As soon as that video of the van being covered up by FBI agents went out on the airwaves, we started to see on social media people sending their pictures of the van, just as you say. People had noticed it many, many times.
Yeah, it's a fascinating sort of detail, and unfortunately, nobody noticing it in a negative way, just sort of as a curiosity, which sort of speaks
Here is
the
we
state
are
of our
real
politics
time,
today,
not only working moment to moment with our partners to the south, but we are working with all parts of the federal interagency to ensure that absolutely every option is on the table. We are looking at every possible way within the legal construct that we have to make sure that those who do not have a legal right to come to this country
and it's sort of just drilled into you. But there are still questions, as to what is it that you see that makes you want to say something? What's the line?
When you listen to Jim's reporting, I think what it says, is that, there are a lot of people who have strong views about things, but when you see stuff like that, you think it's just a goof. You don't think it's anything serious.
Right. But I think also, what Jim said was a really sort of good point, that, the way we talk about politics now, the intensity of our language, things have ratcheted up so much that this is not entirely out of the ordinary, what we see on this man's van. This is what the dialogue has come to a certain degree.
No, you're absolutely right. Of course, it's free speech, and there's nothing there in and of itself that would suggest that this person was going to commit an act of violence, But at the same time, it is disturbing, and it's seen as sort of a novelty, and that's where I sort of became. I think it's going to be an interesting part of the discussion, not in the first 24 hours. I think sort of down the line, and I think we should also be very careful. Just because the van has this imagery on it still does not necessarily, we want to be careful not to jump in conclusions as to what the motivation of this individual was, why they wanted to do this, whether they saw this as being in support of a political view or another, whatever that may be. The van itself becomes an interesting side note.
Yeah, definitely. So just curious, Jim, as people are tweeting at you about being familiar with the van and everything, did anybody say that they had actually spoken to him?
We're trying to, right now, the people who have spoken to him are reluctant to
We're
speak.
Also looking into this, authorities responding to a suspicious package at a post office in Sacramento. We're still waiting on more word on that. But we heard, the president saying that this is a huge victory, and law enforcement is saying the same, that this was a big accomplishment, getting this suspect in custody. And apparently, it looks like seizing this van might be another key part to this investigation.
Yes, I mean, they've been working truly 24 hours on this for days now. This really has the feel for me, actually. It reminds me of sort of when there was the Times Square bomber back at the start of the Obama administration. The FBI, other law enforcement officials were scrambling to try to find the man responsible for that. And then when they finally did, it sort of happened really quickly, and the Justice Department scrambled together a press conference just like this.
And of course, Mike, this all comes right after the discovery of 2 new packages this morning, One in Florida addressed to Senator Cory Booker, another here in New York City addressed to former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. I want to head over to Maggie Rulli, who's outside that post office in Midtown Manhattan where that package was found. Maggie, what do we know so far?
Well, Diane, so far it seems like this story is just breaking minute by minute. You mentioned that post office. This is the block that was shut down not that long ago. Again, this is the third neighborhood to have been shut down in New York City in just as many days. It's hard to believe. I think I've spoken to you on nearly all of those days. Wednesday, if you remember, we were up on Time Warner Center. Yesterday, we were down on Tribeca in front of Robert De Niro's office. Today, we're in front of this post office. So again, it seems like this is almost protocol now. You come in, the entire area is shut down. When we first arrived, there were hundreds of police officers all over this block. It was hard to get here. Now at this point, it seems to be opening back up again. That package has left. We know both this package and the one that was recovered in Florida sent to Cory Booker are being sent to those labs in Quantico as well for to be studied even further. So right now, it seems like the post office is almost back open. We're seeing people with packages, post office workers going back inside. But I think for me, the thing that I'm trying to remember is what we just heard from Pierre Thomas as well, is that even though we got this breaking news that a suspect is in custody, it doesn't mean that everyone is in the clear just yet. And we've been hearing from postal workers and people in the top of the Postal Service saying, still have precautions, still be on the lookout. We're treating these as dangerous, potentially explosive devices. So even though this post office is open again, it doesn't mean that everyone is in the all clear. They want people to stay on guard, to stay alert, just in case there are still more packages in the system.
Yeah, good advice, Maggie. It's good to see that at least there the situation has been secured and business seems to be resuming. But you're right, you can never be too careful, and we all have to stay alert. And of course, that package was just one of two found this morning. The other was found at a postal facility in Opelika, Florida. Eva Pilgrim is there. And Eva, I understand not only was a package tied there, but law enforcement was suspecting that some may have originated there as well.
That's right. They think that some of those packages may have come through this sorting facility on their way to their destinations. And they were following clues, leads that brought them here to South Florida. There was actually some forensic evidence on at least one of those packages that they received earlier, they discovered earlier, that alerted them to possibly being here in South Florida. There were also images from the U.S. Postal Service that showed the mail as it was being processed that brought them here to Florida. Now, we have learned that they were able to track that suspect by using his cell phone. They have that cell phone now in their custody, as well as a laptop and several other electronic devices as well. They will be going through those devices now to find out more information about what he was doing in the days leading up to mailing these packages and what he was doing at this time.
And Eva, it seems a lot of different links to Florida from this. One, that package obviously destined for Cory Booker found there. The idea that some of these packages may have passed through there on the way to their destination. And Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz being the return address on all of these packages, as well as the suspect and that van linked to the investigation, both seized or apprehended there in Florida. Any reaction from the Florida leadership so far?
Well, most of the local politicians and even the national politicians in this South Florida area have spoken out. You've heard from Wasserman Schultz talking about the fact that they will not be deterred from doing what is the right thing, and that this type of behavior is terrorism. You've heard that repeatedly from several of the politicians who were the target of these thwarted attacks. And I imagine the call for unity is something that we will continue to hear from many of these politicians. A bit of a wake-up call for a lot of people, the sense that you can be on different sides of the political spectrum, but you are not actually physical enemies, just of different political ideologies.
Right. That concept may have been lost in a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing lately, but hopefully, as you said, this is a wake-up call. I want to go back to Mike Levine on our justice team, who talked about this investigation a little bit as they try to piece together who this person is. Mike, how crucial do those political elements come into play?
You know, like you said, they know who the suspect is here, and they probably don't have to ask him even a single question to find out what his political leanings are. They can use social media. But the key question that they want to ask him is, why did he do this? You know, everyone has political leanings, but how do you get from there to sending suspected explosives to high-profile targets around the country. And what was he hoping to accomplish by doing that?
And I want to go back to Eva. We were saying that the suspect himself was tracked through a cell phone. I know they have other electronics that belong to him in custody as well. What do we know in terms of what led them to that facility in Opelika, Florida?
Well, we've heard they were talking about they were following clues. That forensic evidence that was on the package, at least one of the packages, gave them some sort of hint. They haven't told us what that hint was, but that is one of the initial things that led them here. And then they started looking at the images, the video available through the U.S. Postal Service, and they were able to pinpoint some images of those packages in the mail system being processed. Following all the dots, following them back, seeing where the next location was, that is how they were able to figure out who this suspect was. Just good, solid police work.
What are y'all shooting for?
And Mike, you cover these kinds of investigations all the time. Were you surprised
Bro, can I ask you a question?
at the timeline of all this and how quickly they were able to put the pieces together, assuming the suspect in custody is in fact...
Say anything on camera? Okay. It's all good. We just ask. We just do interviews. Here we go. This is crazy. How's it going, man? Hey, can I ask y'all a question just really quick? What do y'all think about abortion? What do y'all think about it? What do y'all think? Y'all think it's like wrong or?
Sorry, we're working right now.
I know, but it's okay to have a thought, right? We actually, he lives on this street, so we have a right to do this. So, what do you think about abortion? It's like little babies, like 18 days heartbeat, 22 days blood flowing, it's moving.
Get the fuck out of here, man. We'll talk when you can have a baby. Okay?
Oh, I have 2 babies, so the baby can feel pain.
Excuse me.
The baby can feel pain.
This Marine will not let you talk to his friend like that. So
what do y'all think of? I'm just asking. We are on abortioncliniclive.com. Abortioncliniclive.com. We would love just to ask you questions about abortion.
I live on this street. Really sorry, guys.
I'm really sorry about those little babies. I wish we would talk about it, but just asking y'all about it. Abortioncliniclive.com. It's awesome. Look it up. Babies deserve a chance to live. You weren't aborted. Your mom kept you. Abortion's murder. It is. It kills little babies. What's up, man? That's our street. So do y'all have like, y'all have a right to do this, or? I don't think y'all do. What do you think about abortion? Don't vote for Beto, you know what I'm saying? Like, he believes in killing babies up to birth dates. But I love y'all, man. Jesus loves y'all. He's the way to heaven. Abortion is murder. It kills little babies in the womb. Little babies at 11 weeks, 10 fingers, 10 toes, a heartbeat at 18 days. Abortion is murder is what it is. We love y'all. Abortioncliniclive.com. We've had 500,000 views on Facebook Live, so we're Facebook Live right now. We're just asking people about abortion. No one talks about it. What's up, man? What do y'all think about abortion?
You do know.
Y'all think about abortion? What's up, man?
You do know it's 12 o'clock, right?
I know. What's up, man? How's it going, y'all? What do y'all think about abortion? Abortioncliniclive.com. Wait, what'd you say? You're cussing on the job, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's okay.
This Marine's gonna ask you to watch his
Pure
mouth when
One?
you're talking about me.
Pure One? That's okay. That's all right, man. You got a guy cussing on video over here. He works for y'all, but it's okay. That girl cussed on live video too. Is this Pure One? Is that what it is? I just asked y'all a question. You're on our street, on my buddy's street. I just asked you one question about abortion. Jesus loves y'all. He loves those babies too. They're murdering babies 5 minutes down the street at this abortion clinic.
Ryan, this is a Beto neighborhood. They don't care.
Don't vote for Beto.
This is a Beto neighborhood. They don't care.
I had no idea we're gonna go up on a freaking Pier 1 commercial.
Whenever you get ready. Yeah.
Batman.
And on my street.
Batman. That's freaking hilarious, dude.
Hang this left right here.
I'm gonna go right back down the street. We have a right to do it.
I know.
Don't stop me. They can't do anything to us.
I know.
They don't have a right to block traffic.
Whenever you get ready, but they have a right to call Fort Worth Finance for harassment.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm harassing them.
I do understand.
They're harassing me.
And
it's okay.
Give you
That's fine.
Citation.
No, they can't.
Yes, they
Batman,
can.
I'm not scared of citations.
You don't have to be.
If me standing outside of an abortion clinic isn't harassment, then this isn't harassment. They're in the middle of the street.
Donor that backed Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign. You can see
I just asked them a question.
Hillary Clinton, former President Barack Obama, former Attorney General Eric Holder, all of them receiving packages, or packages that were addressed to them, rather, over the past week. Congresswoman Maxine Waters there. You see John
you want me to go through?
These are all people who have been vocal
AbortionClinicLive.com.
The president.
Those babies
that is something
matter
that
to God.
Have been looking into.
They matter to God a lot. They matter to God a lot, you know what I'm saying? We should talk about that. Do a little camera thing on that. Y'all should go to the clinic down the street where the nurse walked out and quit. She saw a decapitated baby boy. She saw, y'all are blocking traffic and you're mad at me?
And this Marine came.
You're blocking traffic and you're mad at me?
Traffic. Y'all didn't even want me to come down my own residential.
We know the cops in Fort Worth, so we're not scared if you call the cops. But we have a right to be in the street. Y'all do too.
All day.
I'll park right there, actually. Let's just park it here, Batman.
No worries.
Don't do me crazy, Batman. Ugh. I know the it's good. I'm just here. I want to see what's going on.
This is a close set. We're filming.
That's cool.
Bear with us, everybody. We're following the FBI as they come out of the store, out of the auto zone. Let me move up. Let me move up. Hold on one second. Come on. Let's go up. Let's go and see if we can catch up.
Hey, so what you know that I love y'all.
So you can see the FBI here walking. Can we get some information? What were you looking for in the store?
Hey, love y'all.
What's going on in the store? Can you give us any information?
The girls who kept their babies.
What were you looking for in the computer? Okay, so you can see how. We just wanted to bring you that the FBI coming out of the auto zone here. A little frenzy here. You can see the attention on this auto zone here in Plantation. The FBI is still staying on scene. I didn't see if there was anything actually in her hands as she walked out of the auto zone. They were in the auto zone for about an hour, doing some type of investigation. As we brought you those live pictures, it appears that they were focused on that computer screen and that computer at the checkout, just to see what, if any, connection the suspect in this case had with this auto zone. Did he try to buy stuff here? We don't know that. I am getting some more information from my sources as to Aventura. So we mentioned the Waterways shop there before. Apparently this van was very well known. He used to hang out in this van by an LA Fitness, we're told. And he was parked there for quite some time. We're also hearing about, I don't know if Brian reported this or not, but in March of 2018, we have a 2002 case, but also in March of 2018, some type of altercation in Hollywood. So the suspect in this case is no stranger to law enforcement. We did get confirmation. We looked into whether there was any criminal charges in Aventura. There wasn't. There was a couple of traffic tickets, we are told, but he used to hang out there all the time in that very distinctive van. So much so that I got one photo back from November of 2017 where someone said, wow, you know, they were parked right next to him and they thought that it was very distinctive, so they took that shot of him. The FBI, this is the two FBI agents that were here at this auto zone. You saw that reaction because all the media was stationed outside of the auto zone, hoping that the FBI would come out and say something. They obviously didn't want to speak. What we did notice, though, and this is just from observation, is that they were in that store for a good hour. After they cleared the scene, because remember early this morning this whole area 441 was basically shut off, closed down. Once they opened it up, we were able to see the FBI in there interviewing employees, looking at the computer screen, looking, it appeared that they were taking diligent notes as to what was on that computer screen. And it's difficult at this point because we haven't spoken to the FBI. That's why we were all racing out after them to try to see if we could get some information. But this is going to be a very well-coordinated effort in terms of who is going to speak. We understand that there's a 2:30 news conference with the Department of Justice, so I would assume that all the information is going to come out of there. But in terms of our information with local law enforcement, we have been able to determine that the suspect here, no stranger to law enforcement, dating back to 2002 and as recently as 2018, we are told, in Hollywood. Now, law enforcement did tell me as to this distinctive van in the waterways, which is an area in Aventura. They have a bunch of restaurants there. They have a gym there. I mean, this van really stood out. So people were very familiar with the van itself, driving around, just hanging out there. But there was not any, in Aventura at least, there was not any criminal activity. And then that brings us up here today to Plantation, where the FBI was here for quite some time. It appears that they have wrapped up whatever they are doing inside of the AutoZone where this arrest was made. I would assume they were trying to see a list of if there were any purchases, and if so, what was purchased inside of that AutoZone, so they could try to see what the suspect was doing and make any connections with him. The FBI, as we mentioned, 2:30 this afternoon, there should be more information. Let me walk you down here so we can, well, let's walk down here. Okay, the FBI is now, right here you can see the FBI is pulling out. The FBI is now pulling out of this area, so that appears, there they go. So here's the FBI is now, it appears, leaving this, or at least going to the back. Let's check it out where the FBI is going here. Let's try to see this. Here, walk with me for a moment. Let's see this. So the FBI is pulling around. Let's walk back up here together. It appears that the FBI is, and as you can see, everybody following the car again. It appears, let's see this. Okay, so the FBI is leaving. So we wanted to see if they were going to pull around again to the front of the store. I got this. Let's walk over here for a quick second. We wanted to see if they were going to pull around to the front of the store again. Let's walk over here for a moment to see now if any of those employees inside of the store, while we're live here, would actually speak to us now that the FBI is gone. So we'll walk over here. You saw on your screen for quite some time, you saw, hold on, let's walk over here. Let's walk back to the store. Okay, and so the door is locked here. Okay, the door is locked. We were hoping to maybe perhaps get an employee to talk to us about what the FBI was saying. You saw there live on your screen, the FBI took off without a word. They appear to be finished for now inside of this AutoZone. The employees, we don't know where they went. They were back there for quite some time. We got you all the information we could as to the suspect. Still trying to get you some details of a March 2018 incident in Hollywood, which is very interesting. But that's the latest now from Plantation. Back to you.
All right, Raj, thanks for that. 1:06 is the time. Balkis Norey and Craig Stevens here in the Newsplex. If you are just joining us, this is continuing coverage of the situation, this big story, this national story that we've been covering for you all week long. 12 suspicious packages sent out to many Democratic leaders within the party, some vocal critics of President Trump. The FBI, local law enforcement working on this case all week. They are the people that got a lot of those suspicious packages. And as it turns out, as is oftentimes it seems to be the case here, there's been a South Florida connection to this big national story. Just yesterday, we told you that the FBI was at the Opa-locka Processing Center for the Mail, the United States Postal Service, which led many to believe that there was a connection. And as it turns out, there is indeed a connection. A suspect is now under arrest. He was taken into custody where we saw Rosh at that AutoNation in Plantation, 56 years old, and his name is Cesar Sayoc. There's video of him coming in when he was arrested. And he's last known address here also in Plantation. And that's where we are right now at the top of the hour.
Federal authorities did take him into custody early this morning in connection with the bomb scare, as we mentioned. Authorities had been zeroing in the last several days on Florida, and then we got the indication they were focusing specifically at that Opa-locka facility, where they believe some of these devices, if not all, were sent from. And again, law enforcement identified 56-year-old Cesar Sayoc of Aventura. There is one mugshot, as Brian Enton has been reporting. There are a series of them because he does have a history of arrests dating back some 25-plus years. They brought him into custody at that AutoZone where Rosh Lowe has been reporting in Plantation earlier this afternoon, and he was with that van that you can see that we've been following from its move from Plantation. It had been covered, I think, at one point while in transit. The tarp was blown off, and we were able to see the variety of decals that are on the van. Obviously, an eye catcher if you happen to see that going down the street, covered in decals of the Republican Party, the presidential seal, among others. They quickly were able to pull over and adjust the tarp because they want to maintain the integrity of that van. First thing when they, or it's already at where they want it to be, they want to photograph it from top to bottom as they begin their process of determining whether this was involved specifically in transporting those devices. That investigation is just getting underway, but that van are obviously a critical piece of evidence.
You mentioned photographs, all the stickers, all the stuff on this van. So interesting, so unique, so, you know, things you don't see on the road that some people, as they saw the van, specifically in the Aventura area where this suspect lived, would take pictures of it. And some of those people actually sent some of those pictures to Rosh Lowe, he had mentioned, because it was so unique in the way that it had all that sort of political decoration, if you will, all over the van. So it's not something you see on the road every day, and it was very interesting to people that it would be photographed by total strangers, and some people would even put it out on their social media and such.
Seeing a lot of that. The president did speak at a youth event at the White House earlier today, hailing the hard work of the men and women of the agencies tasked with finding a suspect. The president said the suspect here will be, quote, prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. He went on to say in prepared remarks before that youth event, we must never allow political violence to take root in America. There, the president, about an hour or maybe a little less than that or so ago, eastern of the White House, at this youth event, began the event with these prepared remarks.
The profile that might be built, somebody who is vigorously, at least by the outward appearance of this van associated with him, vigorously pro-Trump, pro-right. Reports of him having prior conflict and interactions with law enforcement, reports of prior threatening behaviors. As you know, Rena, that's one of the things we've been discussing for the last few days is as law enforcement is working through all the forensics on this, they were also looking at threat streams, whether that was in possession of the FBI, the U.S. Capitol Police, NYPD, the Secret Service, or local police. With the attention on this, it would be expected by me that other recently threatening behaviors and communications would be studied very hard by law enforcement, and probably with people saying, look at this guy. That happened, so you had the forensic stream, you had the digital evidence piece, cameras around all of these facilities, the Postal Service. One of those was likely to pop, and the advantage here is with somebody with a prior history with law enforcement, great likelihood that fingerprints are on file and or DNA is on file, so that when comparisons are being made by the FBI lab, It's great if he can get a fingerprint. It's even better if that fingerprint matches with something on file.
You know, we heard from our David Begnaud on the ground, a CBS employee who spoke to an attorney who once represented this suspect, who said, told CBS that he felt oppressed by institutions. He wanted to look younger. He was obsessed with looking younger. He felt, this was according to the lawyer, that he wasn't always in his right mind. What do you read from that?
Well, that to me is immediately the warming up of a mental stability, mental capacity defense. I would think a judge, based on what we've heard so far, is maybe going to order a competency hearing, a competency evaluation fairly quickly with this person. It would depend on how he presents himself in court. Does he have the capability to understand the nature of the charges and participate in his defense? All of those things. But with that bell already being tapped a little bit or rung, I would think we're going to hear more about that in the coming days.
Ron, we're looking at that van. We are already getting folks tweeting out pictures of it saying, we knew this van. We've seen it in the South Florida area. We're familiar with it. All of this reminded me of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, the Boston bombers, who were hiding in plain sight. One of them returned back to his dorm room to the University of Massachusetts after the bombing. It was ultimately the FBI. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Ron, but it was a photo that one of the attendees at the bombing, at the marathon had taken that helped get that lead, that tip, to tracking them down. What is it about people who conduct some of these, or are suspected in this case of conducting it, and are hiding in plain sight? Why?
Well, these folks are in plain sight, Rena. We're a country of, what, 3.25 million people with very diverse views. You know, some people are very, very agitated about our world, and they express it outwardly. Here are the outward signs, right? So when we say, see something, say something, when we talk about active shooters where pre-event indicators are out there for the world to see and family and coworkers to see, these may be some of the pre-event indicators, you know, that are decorating his van. How vehement he was, how loud he was in expressing his views, how vitriolic he might have been are probably going to be considered as some of these pre-event indicators. Who saw him kind of going out of his mind in plain sight? Maybe some of those folks called law enforcement and gave tips and clues over the last couple of days. I hope so.
That's interesting you say that. You know, you look at the political imagery on this. You see Mike Pence. You see targets at Hillary Clinton, Democrats clearly. The president is there, obviously not targeted, but postered up there. It's not exactly something, would it be something that someone should call in and phone, or is it just somebody expressing their political views and support?
You know, there is the balance that law enforcement very often has to strike. Coming from the FBI, we had to strike. We gave great attention to the free expression of thought and beliefs. And that was, it wasn't a third rail, because you could do things that exceeded the boundaries and triggered an investigation. But there's a fine line between just expressing thought and speech and freedom in America, which we all should enjoy, and crossing that line. And in today's America, to put somebody's image on a target or put crosshairs on their image like we see on his van, it'll be interesting to see how many of those images on his van match up with people who receive these packages, or who were addressed packages. But we get to express those views, and very often they're hateful views, they're divisive views, they're controversial, but they're lawful views, according to the judges in the federal circuits and the U.S. Constitution. And so you can go pretty far to express very hateful and ugly views and still be within the law, and nobody can or should arrest you for them. It just, typically law enforcement is looking for actions. You know, they're looking for, is there a plot? Is there a plan? Have you crossed a line because you're now engaged in a conspiracy to do harm, or you're taking steps in further of doing harm, great bodily harm to somebody? And so law enforcement's really looking for actions, not just thoughts and words. They're really focused on deeds as well, and the planning. So yes, this You know, this van gives us a lot of indicators. He's probably not the only one with images like that on his van in America.
That's right. So we know that the suspect, Cesar Sayoc, is now in FBI custody. What are the kind of questions they'll be asking him?
Well, first, when they made the determination, and we don't know what led to the probable cause to decide to arrest, whether it was a piece of forensics, whether it was a tip, whether it was a combination of things, video evidence. Once they made that decision to arrest that he was not going to be free to go after this contact, he's in effect in custody. And so the Miranda warnings are going to be triggered when they start to question him. That is custodial interrogation. That is what Miranda talks about. So they're going to have to give him those warnings. Now, there is a public safety exception that the FBI has worked with and looked at the law about, and it is known as the quarrels exception. It goes back a couple of decades where there might be an immediate threat or risk to public safety where they can just push past the Miranda warnings and ask him questions. And I think there's probably been discussions about the quarrels exception today and yesterday because of the potential that additional destructive devices are out there in the mail chain. So it'll be interesting to hear how this plays out. It could be, and I've had this happen in cases of my own, where somebody you think is going to tell you, I have nothing to say, let me call an attorney, and they will sit and lay out the entire scope of the case and their criminality and confess. Others are different, and they're going to invoke, and the FBI will, proceed on. They'll be getting search warrants and executing them today. They'll be looking at his digital footprint. They will be building this case apart from a confession. My guess is they don't need a confession. By the end of today, they will have a mountain of evidence that points at the person in their custody.
Ron, if you don't mind standing by, I want to also bring in CBS News White House correspondent Weijia Zhang, who joins me now from the White House. Weijia, we heard from the president today. What was his reaction to the arrest?
Well, today his reaction was a firm one. He took an aggressive stance, applauding law enforcement immediately, cheering them on, saying that they worked so quickly to apprehend a suspect. And he once again called for unity and said that Americans must unify. We must show the world that we are united together in peace and love and harmony. But, Rena, this is just his latest. And what we have seen since the president first publicly started making remarks about these waves of bombs is a fluctuation, which began on Wednesday night in central Wisconsin during a Make America Great Again rally. And as someone who has been to several of his rallies, that one was very different because he stuck to the issues. He used a almost conciliatory tone. He talked about unifying and condemning violence and calling for peace. And he acknowledged himself that the tone was very different, saying, I'm behaving so nice. Have you ever seen this before? Let's all be nice and get along. But then he got on Twitter, and in the days following, the past couple days, we have seen him this morning at 3:15 in the morning tweeting about one of the recipients of these suspicious packages, CNN, talking about how they're low rated and that they are blaming him for the current spate of bombs. In another tweet, he very much more bluntly said a very big part of the anger we see today in our society is caused by the mainstream media that I refer to as fake news. And then this morning, not so long before he made these remarks, Rena, in the East Room, he was tweeting and he put quotes around the word bomb, quotes, bomb stuff. And so that certainly does not translate to the seriousness of what we are experiencing here, what these victims are experiencing, what the country is experiencing. So he seemed to sort of make light of this somehow by putting quotes and referring to this crisis as bomb stuff. But certainly in his most recent remarks in the East Room, where he is here at the White House, he was firm and committed to finding the suspect and to holding them accountable.
So do you think it erases sort of the critics who have been so harsh towards the president, saying he hasn't been sensitive enough on this issue if he's still tweeting all this out?
Well, it's hard to make that argument because it wasn't that long ago that he was using that very different tone. And so that's what we'll be watching now, is after making these remarks in the East Room, how his behavior will be going forward as law enforcement works diligently to try to piece what happened together, as they try to confirm a motive for this, because as we have seen, you know, obviously it is politically motivated, just based on, you know, what we saw of his van, the different stickers on his van, his commitment to the Trump campaign. And so, you know, when there is a time of crisis like this, that's when people are watching President Trump even closer than usual. And what we have seen is a discrepancy in his language and how he is treating this. So we can only wait, but I certainly do not think just because he took this more firm approach just now, it washes away the other remarks that he has made, and the sort of blame game that he is playing, trying to blame the media for what has happened here.
Weijia, you know, the president suggested that the focus on this is really hurting Republicans ahead of midterms. What's his argument?
Well, he said that there was a lot of momentum and that everyone was talking about politics and the midterm elections, and sort of the growth that he believes Republicans have heading to the polls. And he said that clearly changed, and that the news cycle was taken over by this story. And so that was his argument, and he was encouraging Republicans to go out and vote. Of course, he has several other things that he is trying to call attention on, including sending troops to the southern border, as he has made immigration one of his key campaign issues heading into the midterm. So I think we were seeing so many images of the caravan, and understanding what he was doing, what actions he was calling for in order to handle that situation. But I think he feels like those were replaced by stories about tracking down whoever was responsible for sending these suspicious packages. And so perhaps that's why he used the quotes bomb stuff. You know, we can never begin to analyze why he says what he does, but certainly it's clear he was annoyed that attention was being taken away from the midterm race.
Weijia Zhang. Weijia, thank you very much for joining us.
Sure.
We're going to take a quick break. We've got more coverage of this new arrest when we return.
All clear was given. The work did not end there. We know that USPS postal inspectors were combing through images of scanned packages to then determine where these packages may have originated from. So this postal service distribution center playing a large role in helping those investigators to track down who this person was. We knew that once they found out the distribution center, they could then kind of work in reverse to then go and take steps back to see where the package was sent. And then hours later, now we have an arrest. Out here now, this scene has been cleared, and today, not much activity. We think that investigators have gotten all the information they've needed here for now. But again, this was a very active place last night, and then that quickly led to the arrest we saw earlier today. So again, back out here live this afternoon, we know that FBI investigators focused in and honed in on this facility after learning those details that at least one of those packages originated right here in South Florida. And something else I can tell you, all packages that come to or from South Florida come right through this distribution center. So that kind of helped to narrow down some of those details. And then again, those detectives making that arrest. We'll send it back to you in the studio, Craig and Belkis. For now, that's the latest here in Opa-locka.
Omar, it was a very active scene yesterday when all of this was going down. Any FBI, any authorities, you see anything today? Are they back today, still digging for more?
Pretty quiet right now, but again, this was an active scene, as we mentioned, with FBI, bomb squads, K-9 units, Miami-Dade police all helping in here last night as that investigation was underway. We saw hundreds of employees walked out of this building last night as well. Kind of a frenzy as police were making sure that this facility was actually safe. Now, once that all clear was given, everyone seemingly returning back to work here as normal. I've definitely seen a couple of police units rolling by, but other than that, no no real major scenes, no other evacuations happening here. But again, they're using all that electronic information that they gather. When you send a package, it actually gets scanned through several times, and that is the process that these investigators have used to then track them down to this person. So no activity out here right now, but again, this Postal Service distribution facility playing a large role in the investigation.
Omar, explain this, if you can, how this works. So this is a mail sorting facility, and as you reported, that any piece of mail in the area has to go through there. But if I have a package that I want to send, can I physically go to this facility and deposit it there to be mailed, or does it have to be brought in from from my home or from a post office, and then it is forwarded there?
Yeah, let me show you right behind us here. There's an entrance for people to come in, so you can actually come into this facility and actually drop things off. But for the most part, we have only seen mainly employees here. They do have a box delivery system where you can go and drop off something that needs to be delivered anywhere. But for the most part, this facility is mainly used for distribution purposes. Again, there are delivery signs and places that you can drop items off. But for the most part, I've only seen employees showing up here for the most part today to do their jobs. But you can drop off mail packages here at this facility. They have several drop boxes. I'm not sure if you can actually walk in, but I know they have drop boxes here at this location if you want to drop off a package to wherever it's going.
And I think, Omar, I've seen where, and it would make sense, a facility of this nature is so important to the mail service in our region, that there are likely surveillance cameras all over that place. So that might be one place where the FBI is focusing some attention and seeing if they can see that van or this guy at that facility.
You know, and things seemingly kind of escalated quickly after last night, of course. We saw this process unfolding here. Detectives out here hard at work yesterday, last night, and then few hours later, they've made an arrest. So likely something, again, from this facility helped them to speed up this process and lead them to that suspect who they then made that arrest for.
All right, Omar Lewis, thanks so much. In Opelika at the postal sorting facility there, where it's the focus of so much of our attention yesterday and the next several days, because it appears, and again we saw today with the device intended for Senator Booker and for the former intelligence director James Clapper, they had their origins in terms of mailing them at that facility. Omar, thanks.
And listen, for all we know, there's possibly more things still in the mail that haven't made it to this person's next possible target. So we'll see what happens with that in the next couple of days. The focus of the investigation today now has moved from that post office in Opelika to an auto parts store in Plantation, where this suspect was arrested, and that's where 7's Rosh Lowe is to bring us up to speed on anything that's happened there. The FBI left a short time ago, last time we checked in with you, Rosh.
Yeah, that's true. We're trying to get you some video. I'm hoping during this live shot we'll be able to bring you some video of what happened moments before, and let me know if we have the video there. Moments before the FBI went in. There appeared to be some type of smoke here. We don't know whether that was like a concussion grenade or what it was, but an onlooker was actually able to take video of this, and the FBI went in. We're also getting some information, at least on his Facebook page. I'm just getting, is this the video now? Are we seeing the video now? We're getting some information. We're getting some information from his Facebook page that he actually had videos of local news reporters, including myself apparently, on his Facebook page of people reporting the news. Now let's get to the video that I was talking about. This is video that you're watching now. This is some type of, and it's not too clear, but you can get an idea of what happened when the FBI came in. There was some type of smoke here. And I want to be very careful here because I don't know where this came from. You can assume that it may have been a concussion grenade as the FBI was entering the AutoZone, but that is the cell phone video we wanted to pass along to you. The FBI was in this AutoZone for quite some time, taking reports, looking at computers, trying to get some information. And and I apologize, I'm just getting information in now. We do have people that were going through his Facebook page, and what I'm being told is that there was videos of local news reporters, apparently including myself, several videos of myself reporting the news. So he seemed to be very interested in both local news and national news. We spoke about the distinctive van that he was driving, and according to our sources, people in that area, the Waterways shop there in Aventura, that a lot of people saw this van around. Did run into trouble with the law 2002, March of 2018 in Hollywood. No major infractions in Aventura, but this leads us here to today in Plantation. You saw the cell phone video. FBI has wrapped up here. We're still getting a lot more information. We'll pass it along to you. For now, we are live in Plantation. Raj Lowe, 7 News.
All right, Raj Lowe, thanks. As you might imagine, we have a network of reporters covering what is national news on this Friday. So we're going to take a break right now and let everyone do their work, keep digging, keep finding, keep investigating, and we'll have more for you later on. For now, I'm Balkis Naray.
I'm Craig Stevens. Continuing updates on WSVN.com, all of our social media and mobile platforms. Back with you for that Justice Newser at 2:30. Right now, back to programming. Good afternoon.
The main, like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this, or I can't wait to...
And then you try to get those out of the public area as fast as you can.
There were those pipe bombs, supposed pipe bombs, that were also sent. What do you make about the nature of those particular pipe bombs?
Pipe bombs are, in my experience, the most common type of explosive or improvised explosive device that I saw throughout my 30-year career. They're simple, they're unsophisticated. You can make them from things that line around your house, go to the Home Depot, or any hardware store or electronics store. Very crude and unsophisticated, but extremely lethal and dangerous. And you can make them as sophisticated as you want to if you add electronic componentry, circuit boards. But at its very base level, they can be a very simple and very unsophisticated, but yet a very lethal device.
You talk about these devices, simple, unsophisticated, but potentially very lethal. In your experience, why do these suspects put these out in the mail?
Well, that is one way of creating distance. Generally, these individuals don't do this with the intent of getting caught. So they'll send them in the mail, and they'll try to use deception, fake addresses. They may drive out of their local area to mail them, to try to disassociate themselves with those devices. Other times they'll use, instead of the mail, they'll just drop them off, as we saw in Austin. He actually employed both methods, both common carrier, and then he would place them, created a victim-activated device and functioned when someone touched it. But the mail system is just trying to create distance and not get caught.
Brad, very grateful you can join us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rena.
You bet. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We've got much more coverage of the arrest out of Florida. We'll continue in just a moment. You're streaming CBS Sat.
se sabe, pues atacó a algunos elementos, hirió a alguno de ellos y bueno, están esperando pues poder entrar. Pues fue el reporte que se hizo aquí en esta calle 20 de mayo, aquí en la colonia Juárez de San Juan del Río. Estamos en la parte de afuera esperando. No puedo hablar más fuerte, estamos aquí. No puedo, pero sí, déjenme les comento rapidísimo. Está el reporte de una persona que atacó con cuchillos a habitantes de esta vivienda en la que nos estamos sacando aquí en Face. Esta persona los quiso atacar a estas mujeres con cuchillos. Ahorita está en la parte de adentro, lo quisieron entrar por él y les aventó piedras y atacó a un elemento de Secretaría de Seguridad Pública Municipal de aquí de San Juan del Río. Estamos en la parte de afuera de esta vivienda. Bueno, pues Gaviota, comento que una persona al interior de este domicilio atacó con un cuchillo a diferentes personas. Ahí está, ahorita ahí van a tratar de ingresar para sacarlo. Ahí está esta persona. Aguas ustedes, no les vaya a pegar una piedra. Ustedes también háganse para atrás, háganse para acá. Salimos a la persona, está completamente bañada en sangre. Esta persona que está al interior de este lugar salió en truzas, en paños menores se puede decir, y está al interior. Ahí vimos cómo salió en este momento. Ahí van a entrar. Tengan mucho cuidado, háganse para atrás, no les vayan a pegar, a aventar algo. Tubo, están aventando, van a empezar los fregadazos ahorita. Ahí está la policía queriendo controlar a esta persona que está, no sabemos qué es lo que tiene. Ya lo vemos a esta persona con diferentes cosas, ¿sabes? Cuidado, ya entró la policía, está a punto de entrar, está esta persona al interior. Cubierto de sangre la persona que está al interior, también en calzones está. Ahí está ya la policía que ya quiere entrar. Aventando, trae cuchillos en la mano, también se ve con sangre esta persona que está al interior. Es difícil, hazte para acá, hijo. Y herir al otro elemento de la secretaría.
A ver tú, muchacho, ya, sálvate.
Nos encontramos en la calle de llegó una persona que dijo que lo dejaran aquí, la dueña de la casa está hablando ahí que no permite la entrada de la policía, entonces ya yo creo que se van a retirar los...
Imagínate que lo comenten. qué no pudieron con un drogadito? Qué vergüenza, qué oso para la seguridad.
No es fácil, señora. Ya que estábamos adentro, no es fácil. También nos exponemos nosotros, no crea que no. Ven, entonces comprendan. ¡4! Bueno, ahí vemos al interior a esta persona, ya trae por ahí palos, trae cuchillos, ahorita ya va a salir. Ya salió. Bueno, pues seguimos aquí transmitiendo completamente en vivo desde aquí, desde la calle de 20 de mayo, aquí en la colonia Juárez de San Juan del Río. Y vemos que pues una persona al interior cubierta de sangre. También vemos que pues vinieron muchos policías, pero al parecer el dueño del predio ya no les dejó la oportunidad de meterse, ya les dijo que no se metieran. Están esperando nada más que pues no vaya a cometer alguna locura esta persona. Hirió a algunos policías esta persona con los que están ahorita la Secretaría de Seguridad Pública en este lugar. Y vemos que bueno, pues la persona esta quedó al interior, ya no pudieron actuar, puesto que ya no les dieron chance de entrar por esta persona que usted vio en la pantalla. Pues el joven está bastante fuera de sí. O sea, hay unas patrullas esperando afuera del lugar. Pues sí, es bastante peligroso que traiga cuchillos, es peligroso para cualquier persona que vaya a pasar por este lugar y pues se le vaya a botar la canica y vaya a herir a alguien, es lo que se puede esperar. Hay que tener mucho cuidado ahorita si usted anda por esta colonia aquí, colonia Juárez, la calle de 20 de noviembre. Tenga usted mucho cuidado porque pues hay una persona al interior de este domicilio pues con unos cuchillos y bueno, están esperando que den permiso. Ya hablaron la misma gente que ya no le dieron permiso de entrar por esta persona, y es porque así se ven no pueden entrar a la casa con un permiso. Aquí, la calle 20 de mayo, aquí en la colonia Juárez, Es calle 20 de Mayo. Vea, pues en este domicilio donde una persona salió pues, allá en sangre, también comentando y aventando cuchilladas a los policías. Y bueno, eso es lo que pasa aquí en esta colonia Juárez, de calle 20 de Mayo. Comentan las personas que estaban al interior de que pues fueron atacadas con unos cuchillos con esta persona que traía, llamaron a la policía, trataron de sacarlo, pero no fue así. Al parecer ya no los dejaron entrar a este domicilio, ellos tienen que traer una orden para poder detenerlo, pero no tiene alguna persona y no les dio permiso de entrar. Fue cuando sucedió todo esto. Aquí se pusieron bastante intensas en esta calle que es 20 de Mayo aquí en la colonia Juárez. Bueno, pues les mandamos un abrazo. Ya nos salió el amigo y ya me están diciendo que no, cosas que comentan aquí que pues no pudieron, pero bueno, ya llegó la dueña de aquí, no les dio permiso de entrar por él y ya por eso no pueden actuar, no pueden entrar, por eso fue. Pero bueno, les mandamos un abrazo aquí desde la calle 20 de Mayo aquí en la colonia Juárez, aquí en San Juan del Río. Cuídense mucho y bueno, vamos a seguir informando qué es lo que pasa. Un abrazo. No, sí salieron, habían 3 mujeres que salieron corriendo de este predio. Ahí vienen los elders, y hay que decirles que no toquen aquí, no vayan a tocar en aquella puerta porque no los van a recibir bien. Son elders mormones, me imagino. ¿Son mormones? Buenas tardes. Bueno, mormón, sí. Bueno, pues, nomás hay que decirles que no se acerquen a tocar ahí, les vayan a recibir cuchilladas a los amigos elders de la Iglesia de los Santos de los Últimos Días. Andan aquí también tocando, después ya mejor corrieron y no vaya a salir peor la cosa. Metiendo todavía aquí en este lugar, ya se retiró la policía, pues nada más para ver si me pueden recibir algún permiso de esta persona dueña del predio que no dejó entrar, por eso se retiraron la policía municipal. Pero bueno, pues es que ya armado, pues jugarse el pellejo con una persona que no está pues bien en sus cabales. Un abrazo, eso es lo que sucedió aquí en la colonia Juárez, calle 20 de Mayo, perdón. Un abrazo para todos y vamos a seguir informando cualquier cosa que suceda, con todo gusto vamos a seguir informando. Un abrazo para todos.
successful in our prosecutions, and we've seen the results of that. So for the people of Chicago who worry about gun violence, they should know that it is a top priority of this administration, and it is why we eagerly work in partnership with our federal partners and our CPD partners.
It was significant. Social, our investigation involves, there's allegations about social media that's in the indictment, and it's one of the areas that that our very talented law enforcement teams and the FBI and CPD and elsewhere, they exploit that information in order to get good evidence, and this is one of those cases. Thank you. I think all four, I think all five today that are charged here. The 4 RICO defendants are already in custody. Exactly. This is putting together and on different charges. This is bringing all the charges together into one, and adding the murder and attempted murder charges. Thank you.
It's a little bit drier back here.
Yeah, really. How you doing? You guys inside? Would you be willing to talk to me? I'm with WREL. Would you be willing to talk to me? Okay.
Was there ever any
in this fires all the time? Really? So I ignore them. Sounds like that. So I normally time it out for about 13, 14 minutes. So I'm timing it Friday lunch. And I was going, what the hell took? And I stuck my head out the one time I stuck my head out the door 2 years ago, and there's smoke and the fireman coming down. So I'm still sitting there. I started to call downstairs. And then
Breath.
Robert Reamer, Gary Reamer.
Cohen Breath. Gary?
Yeah. Reamer.
You don't have any TDU name.
Come this way if you don't mind. I'm going to Brooklyn. What up, man? I'll turn this way.
Gary Reamer. You don't need name. There's no company name.
Right. They told me to stay down here and be supported.
I guess it's on Channel 5 because all of a sudden, like I said, I'm watching all the stuff about the alarm getting off. Right. And I decide to even watch it, and then the alarm goes off. The alarm goes off. I've been here 5.5 years. The alarm goes off a lot. So, I mean, unfortunately, most people ignore it.
Hey, Scott, can you hear me? Sorry. Okay, I've got a resident. I've got a resident when you can take us.
Back when I moved in, I was told that, you know, one time I had company when I first moved in, and it was like in early Saturday morning. And all of a sudden, it was summertime, and I went out like flip-flops and went out to the courtyard and got stuck. I hate this. You don't get that.
No, I do.
I just let my brother go. Seriously. That's what I saw. No, here, no, the deal is, and normally it goes off in the middle of the night or whatever. In the middle of the day, depending on the weather, but I'd already been out once and said, I'm going to go out with this. So, but I timed it. And so all of a sudden it's going 14, 15 minutes, I'm getting annoyed. And I got earbuds and I'm trying to drown it out with, because you're working on the side of the building. You see how they say the building on the side of the building. It's really loud. So anyway, I was ignoring it, and all of a sudden,
Sorry. I'm sorry. Say that again, Scott. Scott, we're ready when you are. Yeah, we've got a resident. Okay. Okay, can we take our, can he bring the shot down to get to me? Okay. Stay right there. I'm just gonna ask for you to walk in. You can handle it. I know you can. Gary Reamer. How do you spell your last name, Gary? R-E-A-M-E-R. And you just dropped your top. Gary, G-A-R-Y?
2 R's.
2 R's. 2 R's.
Normally I would have been at the library, but they don't work on Friday, really. They're waterproof inside the building. The building's 45 years old.
Well, Gerald, I want to bring in Gary Reamer. Why don't you walk over this way? And you were inside. You told me on the third floor. Just sort of walk me through everything that happened.
Well, the fire alarms go off all the time, at least maybe once a month. I've lived here 5.5 years, and so most residents ignore it, which is sad but true. And so normally they last 13 minutes or whatever. So I'm trying to get ready to eat lunch. I've been watching about the bomber getting caught. And it kept going on, and I started to get annoyed, so I opened my door up, thinking after 20 minutes, maybe this really is something. I didn't see any smoke, so I go and try to sit back down, and I get a phone call from my brother in Durham, and he said, what's going on? I said, the fire alarm's going off, and my brother said, that's not a fire alarm, your building is on fire.
So you're on the third floor, so at that point, when your brother told you that, what'd you do?
Get out. I mean, I had been out earlier, and so I at least had enough sense to get my raincoat and an umbrella. But
how orderly was the evacuation?
Very orderly. I got to, went to the stairwell. The stairwell is only, halfway down the hall, living the end of the hall down here, down on this end. And as soon as I got in the hall, I see my next door neighbor, he has to have a walker to walk. His name is Harold. And all of a sudden, the firemen everywhere, and everybody was really calm. And so I asked one of the firemen, I said, how bad is it? And he said he really didn't know, but he said there's fire on the 9th floor.
So considering that you listened to the fire alarm for so long before you acted, how concerned are you for those people on the upper floor?
Very concerned. Very concerned. I mean, the fire alarm is so loud it will wake the dead. So, I mean, but the problem is, I don't know why they go off. Before I moved in, I heard about, you know, and when I first moved, the first 6 months, every time it went off, I was out the building. And then it got to be annoying because it would go off in the middle of the night. Maybe somebody's up cooking and, you know, burn some bacon or something, then set the smoke alarm off. So most residents ignore it. I mean, if you first move in, you don't ignore it. It's so loud. And the only way I can deal with it is I'll have a little Walkman with earbuds and put it in and try to drown it out. And normally, like I said, I time it out to 12 or 13 minutes, and then it'll stop.
You tell me you're concerned about residents on the upper floors. Give me a sense of the range of mobility of some of the people who live.
A lot of people are in battery-operated wheelchairs and walkers, at least half the building. And, you know, I'm in fairly good shape, but I'm almost 70 years old, and it's tough. And I can't imagine, there's no elevators. It's like my next-door neighbor, I helped him get down the stairs. He could walk, but he needs a walker. So, you know, I helped him get down the stairs, and his cousin was waiting for him, and he was doing the same thing. Why did you have a jacket?
Have you been told anything about someone, anyone who is hurt?
No. I just, the whole stairwell was filled with firemen, and then they brought a man down in a chair, like a, you know, chair, in, not a recliner, but anyway, an easy chair. It was tough. They were getting him down the stairs, and there were a couple of people in the stairwell. And then I said, is it okay? He said, yeah, you can go down. So we got down to the bottom of the steps in the community room, and there was just firemen everywhere, and everybody seemed calm, but thank God for it.
When we're standing out here seeing smoke and fire pour out of the window and you see firefighters rushing in, what's your reaction to what
I love it. I mean, I tell them all the time, thank goodness that they're here. The most dangerous thing around here is getting run over by a scooter. Which, that's another soapbox I get.
Well, today it's a fire, but
thank God for RPD. They're doing a great job.
Thank you for your time, Gary. Glad you're okay. We appreciate it. Deborah and Gerald, so that's an eyewitness, a resident who was on the third floor. But again, big concern for those people who are on the upper floors. Back to you. Absolutely. It's just one of those things where, you know, it's going off and it gets to the point where people start ignoring it, and then something's very serious like this happens. So the fact that he was ignoring it for several minutes really makes you worry about what's happening on those upper floors. So no question that's something they're going to have to look at after they review all this. We have not seen anyone getting into an emergency vehicle. Again, we're on the Johnson Street side, the northern side of the building, and I can see, you know, in fact, let me step out of the way so Ed Wilson can give you a shot. You can see the fire hose just pouring out of that particular unit. But we have only seen a few residents who have been able to come out on their own. And I think once they get out the door, there's really not anything organized. They're just saying, you know, try and find a dry spot. So Mr. Reamer, as you said, you know, he ignored the alarms for a good while until his brother actually called him and told him. And so now he is walking away trying to find a dry spot. But again, no word on injuries at this point. Okay. So we're going to keep the shot. All right, let me keep. stay there for.
I remember when you guys, killed us in the mold, man. I'm sitting here watching the van with all the bump stickers on it. You don't live right. You don't live. I'm a Democrat. I don't think anybody in their right mind not see through what's going on. Michael. That's not my brother. Call me because call Michael. This Michael you living? You living there? No. Fire alarms go off in the building all the time. Yeah. And so, the first 6 months I lived here, I was winning north. But I've been here 5.5 years. And so, normally they last, I tire them out to about 13 minutes. So, I was... Hang on. Yeah. Hang on. Okay. So, anyway, so normally I time it out, so I don't hang on. We're going to have to start. Okay.
I'm with WREL.
We got a relative that just got contacted me in Thailand. Okay. Spell your name? Robert Reamer, R-E-A-M-E-R. I've lived here 5.5 years. And fire alarms go off.
Hey, Scott.
And the first 6 months I lived here, I didn't ignore.
Scott, can you hear me?
Middle of the night, whatever, I'd be, downstairs. But the frequency is just the point where you ignore them. And I was timing. So
Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
It went off, and it was at 1:19. So I'm timing it, and I'm trying to fix the sandwich, and so I can ignore it, and I got earbuds in trying to fill the noise.
You live close
really
by?
loud. No way you can how loud it is. So after about 15
Hey,
minutes,
Scott, can you hear me?
What the hell? So I walk out and look out, see if I see the smoke.
Yeah.
So I go back
calling
in,
just to
and
say
we get
we're
my sandwich,
ready to
and
go. I don't want to hold you up anymore, but it sounds like you were just trying to find a dry spot.
Fire alarm.
Where's your name, by
He
the
said,
way?
that's not a fire alarm. Your building is on fire. So immediately, needless to say, I got out. So I went to the stairwell on the 3rd floor to see my next door neighbor. And firemen everywhere. Everybody's calm. And I said, how bad is it? He didn't know, but he said he thought it was on the 9th floor. And so
Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
Downstairs, so I helped my neighbor get downstairs, get the walker. And then his cousin showed up, and when I was walking to them,
so 14, is that the
all
top
of a
floor?
sudden, top one. Okay. Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping she's far enough away. She doesn't really.
But I would say at least half the people.
She's on the back side, so that's a good.
Building 45 years old, and half the people may be either a walker or a battery operated wheelchair. In fact, I just thought about the same.
Did you get a call from a family member, or did they call a family member, saw it on fire?
It's a lot harder for people to get out there. Yeah. If you can't use the elevator, it's on they were carrying one guy downstairs when I made it. I tried to call the control room, no one picked up. And there's several stairwells, but the back stairwell is blocked off because you're doing all this work on the building. They've been working inside the building for 4 months. Waterproof. I'll be able to get any time to see the flames coming out of the building? No. All I saw was right here, what we're looking at right here. But I was told, my brother called me back as I'm going downstairs.
Does she have a cell phone?
She has. I said, big brother, let me call you back. But thank you for calling. It's probably, because otherwise I'd still be sitting there. Probably out right now. Oh, it's been great. It's been fantastic. The stairwell, the entire stairwell was fire. Except I had my next door neighbor sitting on the walker, and then another
Hey, Scott, can you hear me?
And they were going up the control room. I called. And like I said, I asked one of them. No one pick up in the control room. He didn't know. And I said, what floor is it? And he said, as far as he knows, it's the 9th floor. So that's all I know. But when I got downstairs, they were everywhere.
We've got a gentleman whose mother lives there.
My manager was at the door, and my next door neighbor, cousin.
And he is not John Williams. Is it J-O-H-N or J-O-N? J-O-H-N Williams.
Okay.
His mother lives on the 14th floor, and he has not heard from her.
No. After 13,
after about 18 minutes.
How close would you say? Because I'm holding him.
I actually opened the door
Okay.
to see if I saw any smoke.
Can Ed pull the camera down? Or do you need that shot?
I was in Chapel Hill every time.
Move. I'm going to just ask you to come out and stay there until I stay there until I don't want you to get wet.
Take care, Colin.
Bye, Gary. Have a good one.
I wish they'd go heels. Come on, basketball.
There you go.
That's you.